And welcome to Grandad's Reviews. Just recently there's been quite a few videos on YouTube looking at full frame versus crop sensors. Now this is something I've been looking into myself, because just recently I've been doing a bit more wildlife photography, and niggling in the back of my head is, do I need to go to full frame? I'm shooting with the Fuji X-T3, but would full frame make any real advantage? Now I've watched loads of videos on YouTube looking at this, and most of the time they're excellent videos and it's given me a lot of things to think about. But what I'm finding is when they're comparing crop to full frame, they're just bringing in the original image. So they're taking a raw shot from Fuji X-T3 or a Canon 5D Mark IV, and they're saying, right, here's the raw, look, there's a huge difference. And there is. But we don't actually use those images like that. If I take a shot with the X-T3, I bring it into Lightroom or Capture One, and I do editing. I edit that image. Sometimes I edit it a lot, sometimes I only do a small amount. So what I thought I'd like to do in this video is take a very quick look at some images that I shot on the Fuji X-T3 using the 50-230 XC lens, which is a cheaper lens, against what a friend of mine shot at the same location, though it was at a different time and there's a few slightly differences, but he was using a Canon 5D Mark IV and the 70-200 f4 Model 2 Canon lens. So I thought I'd just have a look at them, have a look at the original RAWs, and then have a look after they've been edited. So let's get onto the computer. So here we are in Lightroom, and let's make this bigger. These are the images I've actually just picked. I've tried to pick a range of ISOs, but the days were different. I was having to use a higher ISO more of the time than he was. There was more light in his situation. But we've got a reasonable selection. And what I'd like to have a look at first is the ones that have got the same ISO. So we've got this out of the Canon. We shot at 2500 ISO, f8 on 2000 a second, and it was at 185mm on his 70-200. And this is the shot he got. Now I've cropped all these to squares so we can see them at similar size. So if I zoom in 100% at ISO 2500, it's quite noisy, and yeah, it's an okay shot. I then go to my shot, 4000 per second, f6.2, ISO 2500, and it was shot at 160 in of 162mm on the 50-230. These are completely unedited. I zoom in, and I would say the noise is pretty much the same. Not a real big difference, to be honest. And if we compare them to, the noise is different, but I wouldn't say it was any more or any less between the two of them. You pick another one of my shots. So I've got RAW again, basically the same setting, and yeah, I wouldn't say any less or more detail or any or less noise. Well, let's go over to some higher ISOs. So pick the highest, next highest ISO. Let's stick with the 2500. And then I've also shot at 4000 ISO and 32. So if we pick that same 2500 Canon, this was right out at 230mm 1/5000 3200, and this is the Canon one. And again, the noise is different, but it's not a huge difference there. For pick, this one, which is 4000 ISO, and this one was 500, what's that, 1600? Got 1600 ISO on the Canon. So we've got my Fuji file, ISO 4000, and then we've got the Canon one, ISO 1600, and the noise and the detail isn't huge. Just try one more. So this one, that's a 4000. So this is ISO 400. So we've got ISO 400 on the Canon and 4000 on mine. And yes, once we can bring that ISO down, the full frame is killing it. I'll stick to that one, and my lowest ISO, let's pick that one. Well, here we've got 400 on the Canon, 2500 on the Fuji. Yes, I've got a lot more noise, but I don't think I've got any less detail. If we look here, but as I say, these are straight out of the camera, so we would edit them. So let's bring in edited versions of these. So these are the edited versions. So let's find, there's my 2500, and there's a Canon 2500, and after some editing, we do, that's a 1600 Canon. Let's go for that one there. You can edit the images so that there's no real difference, and this is what we do, we edit the images. So if we go through these, so we've got Canon, 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 Fuji, Fuji, and the real biggest difference, I think, that I've noticed, if we pick the colours. Though the light was different here, but the colours are definitely different. Whether you like, whether you prefer the more muted look, I would say, compared to the Fuji. I think that's all down to preference, personal preferences. But if you're just looking for quality, we think that's ISO 400. It's both at 2500, no editing, and the detail, the difference in the detail and everything else just isn't huge. The colours are different, but we can soon change those colours. I think probably a classic chrome is probably closer. That's probably a closer matching colours. And looking at the two birds, not similar detail. And if I'd have taken some of these shots at lower ISOs, I think the picture would be about the same. So I know this is just a quick look, but it's something I've been thinking about. Do I need to go full frame? And when I look at my images straight out of the camera and look at the images straight out of the camera on a full frame, I sometimes think, yes, I will go full frame. But once you've edited them, then there isn't really a great deal of difference, because you can compensate for some of the differences in the two systems. Like on the Fuji, the noise is probably a bit more aggressive earlier on, so with some denoise I can bring that down to as similar as a full frame. And the resolution is all down to the lens, and that was a cheap lens I was using. When you look at the prices, so when I've got some prices here, so for that Canon setup that my friend was using, the 5D Mark IV and the 70-200 f4, that cost him £4,096. My XT3 with the 50-230 cost me, at this moment in time, £1,218. So is the image that he took £3,000 better? I don't think so. I think with the Fuji and a lot of the crop sensor cameras that are out now, you can get the same kind of image. They say the bokeh's about the same. We're both running at f8 at 6.2, so there's no difference there. So I think my conclusion is, yes, full frame is better in some aspects, but once you've edited, it's not as big as it initially looks. So that's my very quick look at full frame against crop sensors. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, get a thumbs down. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button. If you want to be notified, hit that bell button. Till next time, see you later.